Hi, Craig Warrack here, and welcome back to part 3 of my Secret Santa project for 2015, in which I am making the X-Men villain Apocalypse. In the previous video I did some research into this character, culminating in all this crap all over my wall and all these figures here. So I've looked into the character and his backstory, and now I'm making the base body for the custom. The mystery customer that I'm making this custom for has asked for him to be around 8 inches tall. So I've decided to use as the base for my custom one of Hasbro's Build-A-Figures. Here we have the ultimate Green Goblin. Now there's obviously a lot of work that needs done to this figure to make him into Apocalypse, so I'm going to be obviously sculpting on top of that. But before I get to that, I want to make sure that all his proportions are suitable for Apocalypse and that he has all the necessary articulation for the guy. I'm also wanting to try and minimise what we call paint rub at every step of this. So I'll be looking to use plastic that's moulded in the colour that I eventually want Apocalypse to be. Obviously this is a big green guy, so I'm going to be trying to use joints from other figures that are blue. I'm going to do a lot of what we call kit bashing, using parts from different figures to make my base body. And I know there will be some of you out there who will be cringing as I destroy umpteen figures for the sake of one, but that's only appropriate for Apocalypse, who believes in survival of the fittest. The weak must be cut away for the sake of the strong. I've got half of the base body done here already, so we'll take a look at that, and then I'll stay on camera, time lapse, and I'll show you me making the other half of that figure, and hopefully you can see some of the techniques I use, some of the crazy drilling and sawing and gluing and nonsense that goes on to make a custom figure. On the left here we have the standard Build-A-Figure of the Ultimate Green Goblin, and on the right here we have half done, precariously balancing on one leg, my Apocalypse base. He's looking quite Thanos-y at the moment, but that's because, like I said, I've drafted in a lot of other figures to fill out pieces of him, and Thanos was one of those victims. His head is standing in for Apocalypse at the moment, and that's because I wanted to make sure that this size of head was what I wanted. I feel one of the important things about proportions is that you balance the size of the head, the hands, and the feet together. I did consider using the head from the Hulk, but it is much bigger and is better suited to these larger hands and feet, which I think are more monstrous than we need for Apocalypse. Having him with well-proportioned hands, feet and head keep him in that realm of being a person rather than a monster. So working the way down from the head, I've brought in Thanos' neck as well. That saves on that paint rub by using a blue joint. I am planning on using a head cast of the House of M Hulk, which I have to get from my good friend Glenn. I'll be popping round at some other point and replacing this head with the House of M Hulk, because hopefully that head will save me a bit of work, and I just really like the sort of cheek structure it has, and I think that's much better for the lines that go up from Apocalypse's lips onto his cheeks. It's going to look much better, I think, than this guy. But I will be, of course, extensively resculpting that head anyway. So then moving down we have the upper torso and the lower torso. I've done a bit of sanding and dremeling to try and stop these surfaces rubbing, but that's always a losing battle in some cases, but I'll keep working on that, and once we get it painted up we'll probably be able to better see what the damage there is as far as paint rub is concerned. You'll notice that if you compare these two together, I've dremeled the back up quite considerably. That's to take off some of these harsh edges that would really cause paint rub. Moving on to the shoulder, this is the shoulder from the Ironmonger. It has a really nice range of motion, and I've dremeled a hole in here and I've inserted that joint because it doesn't fit into this Build-A-Figure port. The Ironmonger arm itself is very short, as you can see here, so it isn't quite in proportion for this figure I'm making. It also just has a single hinge elbow, and I want double hinges wherever I can. They give that much better range of motion than you get from this. So I've used the upper arm from the Ultimate Green Goblin. That's to add in some of the articulation. Like I said, it doesn't have an upper arm swivel, the Ironmonger, so I've had to splice on there the joint from the Ultimate Green Goblin. And what I did here was I tried to trim as carefully round the Ironmonger joint as possible, and then Dremel out a sort of cup shape from the Green Goblin joint and then place that on. If you just do it flat, then when you move this, there's a lot of shearing force that will just pry it off. But this cup shape glues it on, it makes it very secure, so that's not going to pry off up there. And then because I'm quite enamoured with Thanos' hands, they're quite apocalyptic. I've used the entire forearm from Thanos, and Thanos again only has a single hinge on his arm. What is it with Hasbro and these single hinges? See that? That doesn't give a great range of motion. So I've cut that single joint and spliced it onto another joint, which creates this double joint. Also, I did some work on the hand joint. It has a good range of motion, but I dremeled away a lot of the mushroom shaped peg so that it's much less bulbous, but still a little. That just lets it pop in and out. I don't know if I'm going to do interchangeable hands, but hopefully if I have enough time at the end of the project I can do something, and that's me forward planning for that eventuality. There's quite a lot going on in the leg. We've got the Ultimate Green Goblin down to here, and then we've got Avengers 2 Hulk, then we've got Thanos from this point down. Thanos has a really nice boot design that I'm going to just probably use for Apocalypse. He also has lower leg rotation, which is quite rare in Build-A-Figures these days, so that's something I wanted to preserve. When I was working in the joint for Thanos, it didn't fit very well into the Ultimate Green Goblin leg. These are much narrower, so it kind of made the leg bulge out, and also round the front the knee didn't quite sit nicely. It wasn't quite a straight leg, it's quite bent. So I had a look at my other figures, and seeing as I don't need any more Hulks in my life, Avengers 2 Hulk donated his lower thigh. I spliced that onto the Ultimate Green Goblin. I sawed them both apart and stuck them together, used some random shavings of plastic to fill in the joint, make it the right height, and preserve articulation. This whole building of the base body is a process that I feel should be cleaner and simpler. It should just be constructing a figure from different parts. However, those pieces never quite line up, and you have to do a lot of this kind of Frankenstein effect. There are some customizers who are absolutely great at doing this kit bashing. However, it's just something I've never been able to nail. My kit bashed bases always come out quite unrefined and Frankenstein looking. But hopefully using all of these disparate parts gives the final finished figure a bit of mystery, so that you can't just look at it and say, oh, the arms are from this, that's from that. It's going to be a bit of a blend of everything, and hopefully it makes the figure look more unique and original. So there we are, that's him. He's just a little bit taller than the Ultimate Green Goblin, which makes him bang on 8 inches actually. So I'm thinking that's a good size for what this customer is after. So yeah, I just have to duplicate all of that over on this side. So I better get my Dremel, my blow dryer, my hacksaw, all that other jazz together, and we'll time-lapse me doing the rest of it. So I've just received the head cast very kindly donated by Glenn. This is the House of M Hulk, as I was saying. I'm going to have to do some sculpting with the jaw and probably some of the features to hide that this is the House of M Hulk. You know, just keep it all a bit unique looking. And so I'm just going to have to try and drill a hole here and have that fix onto this neck peg. And there we have it. that's my base figure to make Apocalypse from. My next stage is to move on to the sculpting, and we'll end up making this guy look more like Apocalypse, hopefully. So thanks for joining me in this episode. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.